India has a long-standing relationship with Europe. It goes as back as from the times of Alexander when he came to India from Greece, and then we all know that there was many uh, travelers who came to India like Ibn Battuta and Marco Polo also, who had chronicled different phases in the Indian history, are tryst with the Britishers for the next 200 years, and then the relationship of India after the independence in 1947, both with the Europe, is long-standing, long-lasting, and a relationship which has encompassed all facets of life, be it the cultural, be it educational, be it economic, the defense ties, and all other things. Nowadays, with the European Union and now when England or the UK has come out of the Union, the Europe as a whole, India has an trade of more than $100 billion, and I think it is the third largest trade partner of India as far as trade is concerned. As I told you, the cultural ties, the cultural relationships, the educational relationships are all very important. And especially these days, when we have a challenge in Ukraine, the economic ties have to be redefined and reworked. During G20, the Honorable Prime Minister of India talked about the Eastern Economic Corridor. Although this is something which is a very, very challenging task, but this corridor is actually going to help and increase the trade between India and the Europe. Although we have some challenges in the Middle East these days, but I think soon these challenges will be over and we will have good trade relationship and more cultural relationships also with Europe. I would not take much of your time because there are experts who are here to delve on the topic and then discuss with you your questions, your queries with them. I think it's a great opportunity for all of you as students and faculty members to interact with this august ensemble of dignitaries who have come here all the way to interact with you. Thank you very much and welcome to all of you once again. Thank you.
India also signed EFTA agreement, India-EFTA Free Trade Agreement. EFTA has only 4 countries: Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. You know about Liechtenstein, if you are traveling in Europe, I don't know how many of you have traveled to Europe. If you drive on the road, you don't actually realize that you crossed Liechtenstein. That's a small country. But Liechtenstein has more industries than people. And the idea of EFTA is to bring in, as you must have read in newspapers, to bring in about 50 billion US dollar in the next 10 years, and then another 50 years in another 10 years, which will generate, hopefully, employment of 1 million and 1 million. I think I'll just give a snapshot of how we are looking at Europe, and I think I'll stop here unless you have any questions. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
I think it would be great if there would be also like an Asian Schumann, an African Schumann, an American Schumann, and history is made by people. Like if we think of Gandhi, we think of Schumann, we think of Mandela, but we also think of Hitler. It can also be the other way around. So please, when we try to be good people, to foster the qualities that are needed in a person, because Schumann was also, that's also why I connect personal leadership with core principles European integration. We did it with our COIR project, the Collaborative Online International Learning at the Hague University, that we did together with this institution and an institution in Spain. But with Schumann's frame of reference, which is, I just repeat because it's extremely important, person connected to the common good at the heart of politics, economics, juridical systems, everything. Then the method, reconciliation. Always look for how can we reconcile. Solidarity, but with deeds, like coal and steel. Instead of instruments of war, we make them instruments of peace. Then subsidiarity. Don't ask countries or regions to give in more than they need, because it is only for the common good, what is really needed, they have to give in. Then supranationality, sorry, they have to be as much themselves as they want. Sorry, I'm saying it wrongly. Subsidiarity means that you protect the independence as much as possible. And then supranationality, they only need to give in where it's really, really needed. Okay, and with that frame of reference, you can work towards the solution of even all these problems. And I can speak about that, but there's no time for it right now. But if there is time later on, I would very much like to do so. Next one, please. This is the main aim of the European integration. It's not the economy. It's not coal and steel. It is about peace and security. Thank you. Next one. I think this is something to take to heart. World peace cannot be safeguarded without the making of creative efforts proportionate to the dangers which threaten it. Now we are in a world with many wars. So now we also have to think continentally. So perhaps instead of supranational, some things have to be organized supracontinental. If people die because there's no water, we should do something about it. Yeah, continentally. Next one. This is a new kind of politics, what he started with, the supranationality, that states hand over part of the sovereignty. That is a new way of thinking that had not happened before in the world history. Yeah? So, inauguration of a new kind of politics that will probably be the strongest effort to protect our continent and to preserve the world from suicide. Suicide, if we continue with all those words, I don't want to think of it. Yeah? Switch to the next one. Of course, Mahatma Gandhi, first peaceful revolution in India. It's amazing what he did, what one person can do, and you can be that person. This is what I want to say. Schuman, first peaceful revolution in Europe, right? Next, this was something, Schuman, he lost his mom. He got really very sad. I thought perhaps I have the vocation of a priest. Then somebody said, no, the saints of the future will be saints in suit. Just lay people like you, me, everybody. Just want to mention this one, the former. After the First World War, Schuman also changed nationality. Because of this Alsace-Lorraine, it was first German, and then it became French again. So he was born a German, he became French. I will stop, I know it's there. Perhaps what is needed is a paradigm shift then. That is what I want to say. We need to think from a different perspective and look from a different perspective at the world today. I think that's the main message I would like to give. Thank you. Sorry for taking time.
India is now, European countries, EU, is the third largest trading partner for India. We have close to 3 million people who are either Indian nationals or of Indian origin spread across Europe. And a growing number of people like you, students, are also now traveling towards Europe. Many people have shifted away from looking at only United Kingdom and the US and are looking at countries like Germany and France and even smaller countries as places where they can go and try and make a better, take forward their educational career, but also looking at staying on and working there. Why? Because as Mr. Sahu mentioned a little while ago, India is signing up a lot of migration and mobility agreements, which allow Indian students to now stay on for a certain period of time after completing their graduation or their postgraduate degrees and work in Europe. You also have India now negotiating a free trade agreement with the European Union after having signed a similar agreement with the EFTA countries. So as we look at it, going ahead, Europe will become more and more important. There are also other reasons. I mean, Europe today has a very interesting, the European Union, I should say, has a very interesting relationship with India in the form of something called the Trade and Technology Council. Now, the European Union has formed a TTC with only 2 countries. One is America, the other is India. This shows you the importance that Europe is attaching to India. They are offering to share some of their most cutting-edge technologies in areas like AI, quantum computing, modeling, and this is the reason why this is something that is very important, because this shows how Europe doesn't look at India from the way it did maybe even 10, 15 years ago. The other area which people have referred to is security. Europe is now increasingly looking at the Indo-Pacific and wants to partner with India in very important areas such as maritime domain awareness, maritime patrols, and there is talk, but it's very, very nascent about Europe trying to form its own defense and security policy, about trying to have some sort of a military element to the EU, but that is going to take time. But the good thing is, India does have very strong defense partnerships with several EU member states. For example, Great Britain, Germany, France. And these are the things that will help build a stronger security partnership in places like the Indo-Pacific. India is opening up new embassies in Europe as part of a move to, grow the relations with the countries in Europe. And Mr. Sahu mentioned Estonia. Estonia is, in fact, one of the countries where India is looking to have a diplomatic presence. And there are various reasons for it. One, of course, is the amount of digitization. But also at the same time, Europe is a phenomenal market. I mean, yes, it is a place from where we are looking at investments. One of the paradigm shifts was the trade agreement signed with EFTA, where for the first time India introduced a clause saying that the members of EFTA, the 4 countries in EFTA, would have to make some sort of a commitment, a non-binding commitment to invest $100 billion into India within the next 15 years. So there are opportunities. There are going to be much more that the two sides will be able to do. In terms of the Indo-Pacific, I think is one of the areas where, the European countries are growingly interested, increasingly interested. But that is also because of growing concerns within Europe over one of India's neighbors, and that is China. They have a huge amount of exclusive economic zone in the Indo-Pacific. So these are all, the building blocks which are going to help the two sides create a much stronger relationship. And trade and migration and mobility, I think, are 2 more factors that will strengthen these relations. I think it'll be better if I could maybe take some of your questions later, and that could help drive this conversation. Thank you.
It's more about making a consensus over the issues. And that's where, again, you see a lot of opportunities between India and European nations. So be it the platform of United Nations or be it the platform of G20, and then there are different other vehicles, different other institutions, you would see India and European nations having a consensus over the issues. For example, climate change containment. For example, promoting the global South nations. For example, promoting technology for good, global good. For example, coming up with global governance. For example, fighting against this global war of terrorism through norms, technologies, and civil defense systems. So there is a lot in common. There are certain irritants, for example, the matter of Russia. Entire Europe knows when Russia-Ukraine war started, we were warned by the chief of EU who participated in Raisina dialogue 2 years back that we should stop buying oil and gas from Russia. But that's what our external affairs minister replied with at that point in time, very confidently, that it's our internal matter, it's a matter of our bilateral relationship and our partnership with Russia. We continued buying oil and gas, and we could see later that how most of the European nations have suffered because of by helping Ukraine, but because obviously they are a part of NATO, and by condemning Russian supplies to European countries. So there is a big economic angle involved with all these things, and that is the reason why even a mighty nation like Germany went into the situation wherein it started facing huge economic crisis, for that matter, Britain also. So yes, there are certain irritants, but now diplomatically, even these mighty nations know that when it comes to India, India doesn't mince its words. It considers entire globe as a family. But on the other hand, when it comes to its strategic interests, it is very clear about it. Be it about Indo-Pacific, be it about its friendship with Russia, or for that matter, be it about the matter of Israel and Hamas. But on other objectives that are the prioritized global objectives set by United Nations, as in SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, or other objectives, India and Europe, they stand together. And that's where I see this, big window of opportunities with which both are excelling, and we would be able to see some new, announcements, new agreements, joint ventures to promote this global good and global growth. So on that note, I would take a pause and would welcome questions if anybody has. Thank you.
Actually, I would have liked it to go on for longer. And they really did justice. So I am going to do justice. And 1 minute each. That makes it 3 sentences, 2 sentences each. And the first section, Mr. Sahu, I got to know that EFTA has an agreement. I got to know that our Eurocentrism continues. I got to know that we are taking pride, Mr. Laksar also mentioned it, that we have done agreement with those 4 countries. All I know is that there is money laundering which is done in those countries and hardly any investment from them. But be that as it may, it's an opportunity for some people. And investment will come from there. Where do they have the investment from? Their investment is something which is not formal money. Pardon my saying so. We could have discussed it, but we have not. The second market is very easy one and a very difficult one. I have become a fan of Schumann. I'm reading everything about Schumann. And the man who said, One Europe, integrated Europe, he was a minister at that time, French minister at that time. Nobody heard him. And lo and behold, that was 1950. So that makes it 50 plus 24, 74 years onwards. And in our school, RK school, children have choreographed a musical piece after him. Yes. From where I heard solidarity, supernationality, and so on. Right. So thoughts have to be expressed sometime when hardly anybody might hear them. But they linger on if there is some strength about it. And it has been quite common, whether Gandhiji or Nelson Mandela or Patrick Lumumba or Schumann, they are not very appreciated during their lifetime, but they are when the time is come. So now the question is peace, actually. All what Dr. Joshi has said and others have said is related to peace. Ukraine, Hamas, and so on. And we have to start remembering people who brought us peace and taught us how to analyze peace and how can we go from conflict to peace. With that, I'll finish because, in a way, everybody's theme was that once I started thinking about it, right? So thank you very much for coming, and all the best. I hope we'll have another session like this, fully. Thank you.